importance of Magha Puja Day. On the full moon day of the third lunar month known as Magha, a great assembly of Buddhist monks took place at Veruwana Temple. This day was also marked by four great events. 1. It was a Buddhist holy day known as Uposota Day, on the auspicious month of Magha when the moon was at its fullest. 2. 1,250 Buddhist monks assembled spontaneously, with no prior verbal arrangement. This meant that the Buddha never had anyone request their presence, but they arrived at the great assembly from different locations on their own accord as a result of their all-encompassing knowledge. 3. All the Buddhist monks had attained arahatship that liberated them from all defilements. They possessed higher knowledge that gave them supernormal power, celestial eye and ears, ability to recall their past lifetimes, and the ability to see into other people's thoughts. 4. All the Buddhist monks were known as Ehi Bhikkhu, meaning that their ordination was conferred and performed by the Buddha himself. During the Great Assembly, the Buddha delivered the principal teaching called Ovada Patimokkha, the ideal, principle, and method in propagating his teachings. Achieving the ideal was the highest goal of Buddhists and people of the world, and it is composed of three things. First, success comes to those who exercise patience and perseverance, for humans have to confront and endure suffering and misery starting from birth. Overcoming life's suffering requires patience, a great tool to eliminate defilements. Second, every Buddha prior taught the same thing. Nirvana is the greatest happiness. Practice patience and perseverance so that one can attain nirvana. Third, an ascetic who kills or harms others cannot be considered a true ascetic. While we have not attained nirvana, one must be completely virtuous and vigilant by not performing additional unwholesome deeds because we are all still under the law of karma. If we accrued more misdeeds, regardless of what they may be, it would mean that we have not exercised patience, and without patience, we surely will not reach nirvana. The principle that the Buddha gave is an important guideline in the decision-making process for Buddhists and people of the world. If an action went against the principle, then we would avoid that action. Only when the action conforms to the principle would we carry it out. The principle comprises three components. 1. Do not perform any misdeeds regardless of its degree, because we are all still under the law of karma. Therefore, before carrying out any actions, we must ask ourselves whether the action is unwholesome. If it is, we will not do it. 2. Continue to perform wholesome deeds. Any good deeds that exist in the world, we have to perform those deeds to the fullest when we have the opportunity, because there will be certain wholesome deeds that we won't have the chance to do. 3. Purify our mind at all times. Persevere in meditation practice without missing a single day. Once our minds become increasingly purified, we will be able to attain nirvana. The method is the way to conduct oneself in a manner consistent with the good qualities of Buddhists and people of the world. It is composed of the following 6 factors. 1. All arahats and teaching monks who intend to propagate the teachings of the Buddha will perform his duties without resorting to slandering, attacking, or gossiping, and will avoid all false and harmful speech. 2. They will not harm, injure, or cause anyone distress. They will avoid all misdeeds committed physically. 3. They will firmly adhere to the 227 precepts of their monastic code of discipline and maintain proper decorum. 4. They must practice moderation by knowing the appropriate amount of alms to accept or consume to sustain their livelihood. 5. They must reside in peaceful and suitable places that are appropriate for endeavoring in their meditation practice. 6. All arahats and teaching monks must maintain purity of mind at all times by keeping their mind centered in every activity they carry out, whether it be standing, walking, sitting, or resting. Now that everyone has learned about the meaning and the important principles behind Magha Puja Day, we encourage you to invite all your loved ones to come participate in the lighting of Magha lanterns at the Grand Meditation Square of the Mahadhammagaya Sitiya as homage to the Buddha. Visakha Puja Day, an important day for the world. The appearance of each Buddha can be compared to the light of the sun that gives brightness to all beings. The Lord Buddha appears for the happiness of all human beings as well as other living beings. Visakha Puja Day is the day of the Lord Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and attainment of complete Nibbana. It is the day when all devoted Buddhists recall the Lord Buddha's incomparable virtues and how he is our ideal role model in the pursuit of perfections. All living beings owe the Lord Buddha the greatest depth of gratitude. He had spent countless lifetimes pursuing his perfections so that he could eventually become enlightened on his own and could lead all beings, both human and celestial, to realize the Dhamma. As a bodhisattva, he had pursued his 10 perfections at all 3 levels by donating his wealth, his organs, as well as his life for countless times during the unimaginably long period of 20 asankhya's or incalculable eons and 100,000 kappas or eons. After his perfections were at the fullest extent, he was reborn as King Santusita and ruled over the Tusita realm. It was there that he waited for the right time to have his final rebirth. When the time was right, celestial beings, Brahma beings, and formless Brahma beings from 10,000 universes in the 3 realm spheres came together to beseech King Santusita to have his final rebirth in the human realm. King Santusita checked the 5 factors, which included the human world, the country, the lifespan of human beings at that time, the noblest social class that was considered to be born in, and the lady to be the mother to the Buddha. Having checked all 5 factors, our Bodhisattva saw that he would be reborn in the Jampu world, in the centermost country, during the time where the human lifespan was 100 years, and to a royal family, with Queen Silit Mahamaya as his mother. Having agreed to the request, he resolved to be reborn in the Champu world. His birth, 80 years before the Buddhist era, at Lumpini Grove, between the kingdoms of Kapilavastu and Devadaha, on the full moon day of the 6th lunar month, the physical form of the Lord Buddha appeared in the Champu world, or earth. During Queen Silit Mahamaya's pregnancy, her elevated meditative attainments and her observation of the precepts enabled her to see our Bodhisattva clearly, sitting in a half-lotus position in her womb, as though he was sitting outside. Queen Silit Mahamaya gave birth to our Bodhisattva in a standing position. He was born with his feet coming out first. As soon as his feet touched the ground, he could stand and walk immediately, which is a supernormal incident that rarely occurs. As our Bodhisattva stood up after he was born, he made the pronouncement about the purpose of his birth as follows. I am the Supreme Being, the most advanced and the most sublime being in the world. This is my final rebirth. During our Bodhisattva's birth, there appeared a great brightness that spread as far as 10,000 universes. There also appeared 32 miraculous signs. The great brightness pervaded the 10,000 universes, which is considered a rare supernormal event. When our Bodhisattva grew up, he saw the four divine signs as represented by the aged, the sick, the dead, and the monk. He was reminded that he had to choose monkhood because it was the best lifestyle to work towards the way out of suffering. He left the palace when he was 29 on the royal steed Gantaka to ordain by the river Neranjara. His enlightenment, it took place on the full moon day of the 6th lunar month. After having practiced perseverance for 6 long years, finally, one day, beneath the Bodhi tree, our Bodhisattva sat in a half-lotus position. Although lightning struck 100 times, he was not at all distracted. On the contrary, he vowed that, my blood and flesh can dry up, leaving only skin, tendons, and bones. As long as I cannot attain enlightenment as the Buddha, I shall not leave this seat, but will continue to sit in meditation until the most elevated meditative attainments can be achieved. Our Bodhisattva's determination caused the evil Mara chief and the Mara spirit to stir. The evil Mara chief took over King Vasavati's body and forced him to be the celestial Mara and to perform his evil work for him along with the Mara troops. Our Bodhisattva was not in the least perturbed. However, the evil Mara chief tried to threaten him. He continued to keep his mind still and quiet and finally defeated the evil Mara chief as a result of his perfections, which had been pursued to the fullest extent after countless lifetimes. The Mara troops became frightened and were fearful of the perfect man's power of merit. They eventually dispersed and left him alone. The perfect man considered the 12 parts of the law of causation. He considered them both forward and backward. The 10,000 universes trembled 12 times, and the vibration reached as far as the subterranean water. He became enlightened as the Lord Buddha at dawn the next day. After attaining enlightenment, the Lord Buddha, with his deep compassion, taught his enlightened knowledge to all beings so that they too could realize the Dhamma. For the long period of 45 years, he had trekked far and wide to spread the teachings tirelessly and had helped a huge number of beings to realize the Dhamma and attain the different stages of purity. The Lord Buddha attained complete Nibbana when he was 80 years old. Attaining complete Nibbana on the full moon day of the 6th lunar month, 1 year before the Buddhist era, at the Salavan forest of Kusinara Kingdom, our Lord Buddha attained complete Nibbana. His physical body expired, and only the Dhamma body remained, which was the Lord Buddha's Dhammagaya. It was the Dhammagaya that entered Nibbana. Before his body expired, the Lord Buddha graciously gave his final advice to the Buddhist communities. The body is changeable and undergoes decay as a normal process. Therefore, you must make sure not to be reckless. This is the abbreviated version of our Lord Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and attainment of complete Nibbana. Our Lord Buddha is our best role model. He has been the world's greatest teacher throughout the past and the present. Therefore, every full moon on the 15th of the 6th lunar month, which is also called Visakha Purnanami Day, is the day of the Lord Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and attainment of complete Nibbana. There had yet to be any religious leader in the world whose birth, enlightenment, and physical expiration happened on the exact same day, the way they did with our Lord Buddha. The United Nations call this auspicious day a universally important day of the United Nations, or an important day of the world. Therefore, Visakha Busha Day is the day that the Buddhist communities should invite everyone in the world to think about the Lord Buddha and his pursuit of perfections, to come and study the Dhamma, because Dhamma can serve as our guiding light in this life, and later it can lead us to the celestial realm and Nibbana. We should come together to practice meditation and endeavor to attain the Dhammagaya within us. We will circumambulate the great Dhammagaya Sitiya and pay homage to our Lord Buddha together. Therefore, all 4 Buddhist communities are invited to meet together at the Dhammagaya Temple on this coming Visakha Busha Day. Let's be dressed in white and come together to remind ourselves of the greatest debt of gratitude that we owe to the Lord Buddha.
Asalha Puja Day. Asalha Puja Day is another important day in Buddhism. It falls on the 15th day of the 8th waxing moon. 4 events took place during the times of our Lord Buddha. First, it was the day of our Lord Buddha's first sermon to the 5 ascetics in Isipatana Marukatayawan forest near Benares. Second, it was the day of our Lord Buddha's first disciple. His name was Gondana. He became enlightened as the first dream winner. Third, it was the day of the first Buddhist monk. The monk was Gondana. After he had become a stream winner, he requested an ordination. Our Lord Buddha ordained him as the first monk in Buddhism. Fourth, it is the birth date of the Triple Gem, which includes the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the monks. The first witness to the Buddha's enlightenment had occurred. This completed the Lord Buddha's Buddhahood. It meant that the Buddha did not attain enlightenment and kept the knowledge to himself like a silent Buddha. Asalha Puja Day had its beginning after the Buddha's enlightenment. He spent a period of 7 weeks immersed in the bliss of emancipation. After this blissful period, he was concerned that his enlightened knowledge would be so deep and so profound that it might be difficult for beings that are thick with defilements to follow. The Brahma king Sahambadi knew of the Buddha's concern and requested him to give a sermon because there were still beings with less dirt in their eyes. With his great compassion, the Lord Buddha employed the Buddha vision to check all the beings that were still trapped in the three worlds. He saw that there were beings of low defilements and some still thick with them. There were some whose merit was vast and others was still small. Some were easy to teach, others were not. Like the lotus plants that grew in the water. Some grew in deep water. Some were near the surface. Some were almost out of the water. Some were not ready to bloom. And some were ready, just like beings that could be taught. The Lord Buddha finally agreed to the Brahma king's request. After the Brahma king departed, the Lord Buddha began to consider to whom he should give his first sermon. Who could penetrate the Dhamma readily? He considered the ascetics Alara and Uddaka, who were brilliant and their defilements had long been kept very low. They would be able to penetrate the Dhamma quickly once they heard his sermon. One celestial being knew of the Lord Buddha's intention. He descended from his celestial castle to inform the Lord Buddhas that both ascetics had already been dead. The Lord Buddha checked and found out that both of them had been dead. He thought that it was indeed their great misfortune, because if they had heard the Dhamma, they would have penetrated it immediately. Afterward, he considered the 5 ascetics who were once very good to him. They had attended to him when he was still a bodhisattva. Therefore, he went to see them at the forest. When the ascetics spotted the Lord Buddha from afar, they agreed among one another, "Fellows, this monk Gotama is greedy. He has stopped practicing self-mortification and is coming here because of greed. Here he comes. We will not pay him respect. We will not get up to greet him. And we will not take his alms bowl and his robe for him. We will only prepare a cushioned seat, just in case he wants to sit down." Once the Lord Buddha arrived, the Buddha power caused them to forget their agreement. They all got up to greet him. One took his alms bowl and robe. Another prepared a cushioned seat. One prepared a foot bath. Another placed a footstool by the seat. And one presented to the Buddha a foot drying tile. The Lord Buddha sat on the cushioned seat and then washed his feet. After having welcomed the Exalted One, the ascetics addressed him inappropriately by using his name and an inferior title. Then the Lord Buddha forbade the ascetics by saying, "Behold, ascetics, you must not address me by my name or by using an inferior title. Behold, the Tathagata, I am an arahant, and I have already attained enlightenment on my own. Pay attention, I shall teach, and I have penetrated the Dhamma. Once you have practiced according to my teaching, soon you will penetrate an incomparable benefit, which is the ultimate of the holy life." After the Lord Buddha said these words, the ascetics had an immediate reaction. Young Gotama, you once practiced self-mortification and could not even then attain enlightenment. Now that you've become greedy and lax, how is it possible that you have attained enlightenment and become a Buddha? After the ascetics expressed their view, the Lord Buddha said, "Behold, ascetics, the Tathagata is not greedy, nor is he lax. He is here not because of greed. Behold, the Tathagata is an arahant and has attained enlightenment on his own. Pay attention. I have penetrated the Dhamma I shall teach. Once you have practiced according to my teaching, soon you will penetrate an incomparable benefit, which is the ultimate of the holy life." The Exalted One repeated these words 3 times. The Lord Buddha continued, "Behold, these words that were just uttered have never been spoken before. This is the very first time." Once the ascetics heard the Lord Buddha's confirmation, they were then willing to listen and pay attention to his sermon. The Lord Buddha's first sermon to the 5 ascetics were about 2 things that monks should never practice. First, being involved in all forms of sensual pleasure. This lowly nature belongs to commoners, to ordinary people. It does not belong to holy individuals. It has no benefit. Second, the practice of self-mortification is not the practice of holy individuals. It has no benefit. The Lord Buddha then pressed the middle path, which led him to attain enlightenment. It includes the Noble Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Paths. At the end of the sermon, the ascetic Gondanya understood what he heard and became enlightened as a stream winner. He was able to attain the Dhammagaya. Therefore, this event marked the completion of the Triple Gem. As a result of the first sermon, celestial beings in every realm, from earth's sprites to the Brahma beings, all sang the Lord Buddha's praises. The sound resonated through tens of thousands of universes, and an incomparable brightness pervaded everywhere as a result of the celestial powers. We have now learned something about Asalha Puja Day. All of us Buddhists should deepen our faith in the Triple Gem and be determined to practice meditation so that we can attain the Dhammagaya quickly. The history of the Rain's Entry Day. The Rain's Entry Day is the first day where Buddhist monks dwell permanently at a suitable place throughout the rainy season, starting from the first day of the 8th waning moon until the 15th day of the 11th waxing moon, for a period of 3 months. Before the Lord Buddha legislated the rains retreat for the monks, they used to make a pilgrimage all throughout the cold, hot, and rainy seasons. This caused the inhabitants to criticize and find fault with the monks for having made a pilgrimage all throughout the cold, hot, and rainy seasons, causing so much damage to the vegetation and killed so many small animals. The monks had heard how the people were criticizing and finding fault with them, so they brought the subject to the Lord Buddha. The Lord Buddha considered the situation and then said to the monks, "Behold, monks, from now on, we allow you to dwell in one place during the rainy season. There are 2 rains and 3 days. The first is Purimika, the first rains and 3 day. It means the day after the full moon day of Asaha, which signifies the first rains and 3 day, and falls on the first day of the 8th waning moon. The second is Pachimika, the last rains and 3 day. It means 1 month after the Asaha, which falls on the first day of the 9th waning moon. Once the rains and 3 day begins, the monks must dwell in one place for the entire 3 months and cannot stay overnight anywhere else. There is an exception to the rule, which allows an overnight stay elsewhere. This is called Sattaha Karaniya, which means when there is a matter of necessity, a 7-day temporary stay elsewhere is allowed, as in the following example. There was once a lay devotee named Udain. He had a temple built for the monks in the suburb of Kosol. At one point, he had a wish to offer alms, listen to the Dhamma, and meet with the monks. So he sent a servant to request the monks' presence at his house. The servant went to the monks with his request, but the monks did not come as invited because it was during the rain's retreat and they could not stay overnight elsewhere. The servant returned to report the situation to the lay devotee. It caused him to criticize the monks. They did not come as requested, in spite of the fact that I am a lay devotee. I've built a temple and supported the Sangha all along. The criticism had been relayed to the monks, so they told the Lord Buddha about it. For that reason, the Lord Buddha allowed an exception. When it is a matter of necessity, a temporary stay of 7 days elsewhere is allowed. There are 5 matters of necessity as follows. First, a lay devotee wishes to offer alms and listen to the Dhamma and sent someone to make a request. The Lord Buddha made an allowance only when there was a request. Where there is no request, it is not considered an exception. Second, when a fellow monk or novice becomes ill, terribly anxious, having wrong views, risks committing a religious offense, and wants to purify himself according to the Dhamma discipline, this is considered an exception. Third, when a novice wishes to become an ordained monk and needs the presence of other monks. Fourth, a monk can visit his parents, siblings, or relatives when they become ill. Fifth, to perform the Sangha's business, such as finding building materials to fix the temple when it needs repair. When an unexpected event occurs and does not allow a rain's retreat to continue in the same place, the monks are allowed to forgo it and to stay elsewhere. Such events include: first, when a monk is disturbed by wild beasts. Second, when there is a robbery. Third, when there is a fire or flood at the temple. Fourth, when inhabitants are bothered by thieves or robbers and decide to move away, the monk is allowed to go with them. or if the inhabitants are divided into two camps, he's allowed to go with the majority. But if the majority has no faith in Buddhism, he's allowed to go with the minority. Fifth, when there is a shortage of food or medicine or lay individuals to support the Buddhist faith, the monk is allowed to leave. Sixth, when someone tries to tempt the monk to disrobe by offering him land, wealth, and a daughter, he's allowed to leave the area. Seventh, when there is a possible division of the monks or someone is trying to make it happen, or the division has already occurred, he's allowed to go and alleviate the situation. The place for the rains retreat should be conducive to the Dharma practice. For example, it shouldn't be too far or too close to the community. It should have access to easy communication. It shouldn't have a lot of traffic during the day. It should be quiet and peaceful at night. It should be devoid of any disturbance. It should be a place conducive to monks who desire solitude and peace. Certain places for the rains retreat are allowed under special circumstances. For example, when a monk is traveling with a cattle herder along the herder route, or with a band of wagons or by boat, in order to reach a certain destination. During the trip, if it happens to fall on the rains entry day, the monk can spend the rains retreat en route. When the cattle herder, the band of wagons, or the passenger boat continues on course, the monk is allowed to continue his journey by making a vow, Itavasan Upemi, which means I am spending my rains retreat here. When the monk reaches his place of destination, he is allowed to spend the rest of the rains retreat there. Should the place of his destination not be reached because the cattle herder, the band of wagons, or the passenger boat comes to an end of the trip, the monk is allowed to spend the rest of the rains retreat at the particular place. Such conduct does not violate the legislation. The Lord Buddha forbade spending the rains retreat in inappropriate places such as, first, in the hollow of a tree, as the monk might be mistaken for a demon. Second, on a branch of a tree, as the monk might be mistaken for a hunter. Third, in an open space, as when it rains, the monk would need to run for shelter in the hollow of a tree or under a building, and this doesn't look proper and is considered an inappropriate conduct for a monk. Fourth, a place without a bed, that is, a sitting and sleeping area without adequate protection from the elements, making it impossible to practice the Dhamma. Fifth, in a ghost haunt or a hut in a corpse yard built in the old days, as the monk might be mistaken for an undertaker. Sixth, beneath an umbrella or in a tent, as the monk might be mistaken for a cattle herder. Seventh, in the water vessel, as the monk might be mistaken for a heretic. We've now learned something about the history of the rains entry day. The real purpose of the rains retreat is to allow the monks and novices more time to practice meditation. As ladies and gentlemen devotees, we can determine the boundaries of our rains retreat by concentrating on the seventh base at the center of our being. Let's keep our mind still within its perimeter at all times, and we will attain the Dhammakaya within this rains retreat. The Day of the Pledge. Pledging support to each other on the day of the rains retreat ends began when the Lord Buddha was staying at the Jetavana temple in the city of Savatthi. There was a group of Buddhist monks who spent the rains retreat in different temples around the city. These monks did not want conflicts to arise, which might cause them to be unhappy during the rains retreat. So they decided to practice silence for the entire 3 months, which they had accomplished successfully. At the end of the rains retreat, these monks went to see the Lord Buddha at the Jetavana temple and told him about the practice of silence. The Lord Buddha criticized their practice and allowed the monks to pledge to each other in the following way. Monks, after the rains retreat, you should pledge to each other in regards to what you see, what you hear, and what you question. Therefore, the end of the rains retreat is also called the Day of the Pledge and falls on the 15th day of the 11th waxing moon each year, and the day has 2 different meanings. The end of the rains retreat is the day when the rains retreat ends and the monks need to stay put for 1 more night. The Day of the Pledge is the time when every monk, regardless of his seniority, allows other monks to advise him with loving kindness as is necessary. The Pali words for the pledge are Sangham Pante Pawaremi Titena Sutena Parisangkaya Watantumang Ayasamanto Anukampang Upataya Pasanto Patika Risami. It means, Venerable monks, I pledge to you that if you see or hear or question my conduct as being incorrect, I ask that you give me advice so that my conduct can be improved. During the rains retreat, it is possible that something unbecoming may occur as a result of an oversight. It is like when dirt gets into one's eye. One cannot see the dirt and has to ask another person to help. Therefore, the Day of the Pledge is the day which the Lord Buddha allowed the monks to give each other advice. A senior monk can advise a junior monk, and a junior monk can advise a more senior monk, as a senior monk may not be perfect. The pledge is one way to contain any misbehavior of a monk and prevents it from spreading and doing damage to the Buddhist faith. The pledge is considered a form of prevention. In summary, the pledge which is carried out by the monks is a way to help them not to be reckless, and it prevents anything bad from happening and spreading. The objectives of the pledge are the following. First, it is a way to clear up any questionable conduct. Second, it is a way to heal any conflicts which may arise as a result of a communal living and enhances mutual understanding. Third, it promotes unity and harmony within the community. Fourth, it allows monks of all ranks and seniority to advise one another. And fifth, it fosters brotherhood among the monks so that they are encouraged to conduct themselves properly. The fruits of the pledge include the following. First, it creates purity in the body, words, and mind among the monks, and it clears up any questionable conduct. Second, each monk will be able to learn about his shortcomings so that he can improve himself when he can bear to listen to other monks' advice, which is like pointing him to the treasured truth. Third, it gives each monk an opportunity to apologize to each other and dispel any anger which may occur later. This fosters love, good wishes, and forgiveness, and allows communal living to be a happy one. Fourth, it unites the Buddhist monks so they can work together as a team for the Buddhist cause. And fifth, it unites the monks and allows them to withstand any external agents that may harm Buddhism. The pledge is carried out for the sake of prosperity, for the benefit of the individual and the community, which can be gained through the advice given to one another with love and kindness. Therefore, on the day of the pledge, the Buddhist communities should take this opportunity to follow this worthwhile practice by allowing those around us to give us advice so that we can better cultivate perfections in the future.
The meaning of Katina offering. Katina is the offering of robes to the Buddhist monks who practice righteousness and have completed the Buddhist Lent. It is a great merit-making occasion for lay devotees, and it earns them tremendous fruit of merit. But before we mention the fruit of merit, let's learn about the meaning of Katina. Katina means an embroidery frame that is used to hold the cloth in place. It can be rectangular or round. Once the cloth is held in place, sewing is then facilitated. Another meaning of Katina is the offering of robes to the Buddhist monks who have completed the Buddhist Lent. Katina offering is the respectful offering of robes to any Buddhist monk in the temple. The occasion of Katina can also be called the season for changing into a new robe. At the beginning of Buddhism, a monk acquired his robe by making it out of discarded cloth, such as cloth used to wrap a corpse, or cloth picked up from a trash pile. In those days, cloths were precious and hard to find. when a monk fashioned his robe out of discarded cloth. It signified him as a recluse in search of emancipation. Moreover, a robe made from discarded cloth would not attract the attention of thieves. People in those days minded old and patched material, and it was not desirable to anyone. But later on, the Lord Buddha permitted wealthy patrons to offer cloths to the monks. It all began when a physician requested the Lord Buddha permission to offer cloths to the monks because it was difficult for the monks to find them. The robe design came from the Lord Buddha. He had the most venerable Ananda, fashioned it after the rice paddies. The robe was stitched together using many pieces of cloth that it looks just like the rice paddy in order to mar the robe and render it undesirable. The Lord Buddha legislated the robe to contain at least 5 different pieces of cloth vertically. Each piece was called Mundala. Smaller pieces was called Atta Mundala. The monks used to have to cut the cloth into suitable pieces, stitch them together, and then dye the robe themselves, which was difficult and time-consuming. They were permitted to use such materials as roots, trees, leaves, flowers, bark, fruit. After the cloths were sewn together into a robe, it would then be dyed. The color used was red yellow or dull yellow. Forbidden colors include indigo blue, yellow, red, pale pink, orange, pink, and black. The monks had to consider the robe before using it. They had to reflect upon the purpose and the use of the robe before donning it. Once the ritual was completed, the monks would use the robe and take care of it very well because the robe was considered the victory flag of the Arahats. Once the monks received a new robe, the old robe would be used for other purposes, such as lining the ceiling. The old ceiling liner would then be used as the bed sheet. The old bed sheet would be used as a floor cover. The old floor cover would be used as a floor mat. The old floor mat would be used as a dust cloth. The old dust cloth would be pounded and mixed with clay to coat the wall of the monk's residence. Therefore, the offered robes are used for many purposes, and the offering of robes earns the donor great merit. The history of Katina offering is as follows. Once, while our Lord Buddha was staying at the Jettawan temple in Savatthi, there were 30 monks from Bhattayarat who were on their way to see the Lord Buddha at the Jettawan temple in Savatthi. They had just reached the town of Saked, not too far from Savatthi, when the Buddhist Lent was upon them, and they had to stay put where they were. The monks regretted the fact that they were only less than 100 kilometers away from the Lord Buddha, but could not go and see him. After the Buddhist Lent, the monks renewed their pledge to support one another. It was still raining quite heavily after the Buddhist Lent, making the ground very muddy. The monks hurried to continue their travel to have an audience with the Lord Buddha. As a result, their worn-out robes became torn, wet, and dirty. It was a difficult trek to Jettawan temple. As soon as they reached the temple, they went immediately to see the Lord Buddha with their wet and dirty robes. The Lord Buddha asked the monks about their living conditions and their health. He wanted to know how they spent their Buddhist Lent and whether they were harmonious and able to go for alms. The monks answered that they were well enough and were able to live quite comfortably. They told him that they had lived peacefully with one another and received sufficient alms from the people. The Lord Buddha noticed their torn robes and allowed them to accept new robes from lay devotees within a short period of 1 month after the Buddhist Lent. After receiving the new robes, the monks were allowed to travel to a quiet and peaceful place for the purpose of practicing meditation without having to ask for permission, to travel without the complete set of robes, to dine with the other monks at the same table or in a group, to accept additional offering of robes, to keep extra robes for the monks' own use without having to make them available to other monks. This is the history of katina offering and what the monks can do after the ceremony. You are all invited to join the ceremony of katina offering at the Dhammagaya Temple on the first Sunday of November.